This is the All the Science podcast, the podcast that describes an interesting aspect of science in 5 minutes or less. My name is Jerry.
And my name is Tim, and we're both guest podcasters for this episode, cloning.
Cloning is an especially interesting topic, as it dates back to well past the 20th century, all the way back to 1885, in fact, with the cloning of a sea urchin. And then we've continued all the way to the present day, where cloning your beloved pet is now a valid option. Though cloning is an interesting concept, it's important that we understand what it entails too. In other words, what processes are required to make it work.
There are two main types of cloning available in our current day: artificial embryo twinning and somatic cell nuclear transfer. That's pretty cool, if I gotta say. The former is a method of cloning which mimics the process of creating twins, in which the egg cell is split at an early stage in development, causing two identical cells to develop. And the latter is a method in which a somatic cell, which is a cell other than a sperm or egg cell from any other part of the body, is planted into an egg cell. Man, that's really cool. Needless to say, in both cases, the end result is two organisms that are exact genetic copies of one another.
Contrary to popular belief, clones do not necessarily need to be identical. For example, the first cat to be cloned was named Cece. She was a female calico cat that looked very different from her mother. The explanation for the difference is that the color pattern of the coats of the cats could not be attributed exclusively to genes, due to a biological phenomena involving the inactivation of the X chromosome, which not only determines the sex of the cat, but the coat patterns as well.
So we're going to dive right into a discussion about cloning. In current news, with today's rapid advance with cloning technologies, it's pretty possible that we will soon be hunting, or at least living alongside, a lot of animals that have actually been long past extinct. This was a paper done by the Daily Star, in which they said Daniel Wright of the University of Central Lancashire has predicted the future will be filled with genetically engineered animals that have been created for human consumption and sports, laying out three possible scenarios in his paper, Cloning Animals for Tourism, in the year 2070. So yeah, that's a pretty cool preposition. What do you think about that, Tim?
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting, but I also think it's devastating that we humans are overpopulating the Earth, which has led to climate change and habitat destruction, which means that it will be a significant challenge to reintroduce these animals to our new world. Bringing it back to the most successful attempt at cloning, we have Dolly the Sheep. Dolly was a part of a series of experiments at the Roslin Institute that were trying to develop a better method for producing genetically modified livestock. Dolly was in fact the first animal to be cloned from the adult cell of her surrogate mother. However, Dolly's life was not very long. In fact, it was only half of what a normal sheep's life expectancy should be. Dolly lived 6.5 years. A normal sheep lives 11 to 12 years. This was due to the fact that Dolly had shorter telomeres than other animals of the same age. Telomeres are pieces of DNA that protect the ends of chromosomes. They shorten as cells divide and are therefore considered a measure of aging in cells. Along with this, Dolly also developed arthritis. After this was successfully treated, Dolly developed tumors in her lungs. This led to her untimely demise. So yeah, what do you think about all this, Jerry?
Yeah, it's definitely a really cool story. However, especially with the case with Dolly, there's some serious ethical concerns with cloning that have opened up, you know what I mean? For instance, people obviously want to clone their beloved pets, right? Their dogs especially, right? And if we look at the science, the cloning success rates are fairly low. And what people don't see is the number of dogs that don't survive the process is staggeringly high. So when we think about that, it really makes you think whether you should go and get your dog cloned or not, you know? All right, so today we discussed many topics in regard to cloning. We talked about how the cloning process works, the history of cloning, and some of the current news about cloning. This has been Jerry and Tim, and you have been listening to the All the Science podcast. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to contact us, you can do so at allthisscience@gmail.com.